the pharmaceutical industry. That's pretty straightforward. Science and medicine have failed in response to the autism epidemic because of epistemic capture. And what I mean by that is that the pharmaceutical industry has captured every step in the knowledge production process in science and medicine. Big Pharma controls what is studied, how it is researched, and what qualifies as evidence. Now, this capture permeates every level of the system. Medical textbooks and curricula are influenced by financially conflicted academics. Universities and department chairs hold substantial pharmaceutical ties. Most clinical trials are conducted by for-profit contract research organizations in China and the Third World. A large share of scientific journal articles are ghostwritten. The pharmaceutical industry spends over $27 billion annually on drug promotion and continuing medical education. Standards of care are authored by conflicted physicians. So from the first day of medical school to the final years of practice, doctors live inside an epistemic bubble engineered by the pharmaceutical industry to increase its profits. Senator Blumenthal and Dr. Scott only pay attention to captured science, science that's controlled by the pharmaceutical industry. The correct answers, the best science, is happening outside of that epistemic bubble. The entire system of knowledge production in science and medicine needs to be overhauled to liberate it from the biases and distortions imposed by the pharmaceutical industry. So just to wrap up, an estimated 115,000 children develop autism every year in the United States. That means that 315 children develop autism every day in the US. Now, if Dr. Sally Ozanoff's work is correct, and she's at UC Davis, she shows that 88% of autism cases are characterized by regression. That means that, so if she's right about that, and I think she is, that means that 277 children regress into autism every day in the United States. Now, regression suggests an acute toxic exposure. Not genetics, not better awareness, an acute toxic exposure, which means that most cases of autism are preventable. Autism is not a medical or scientific mystery. We know beyond a reasonable doubt that toxicants, mostly from vaccines and about a dozen additional toxic
It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one most responsive to change.
The theory of evolution was developed by Charles Darwin and published in his book On the Origin of Natural Selection is a process behind evolution. Charles Darwin developed his theories after his adventures upon the HMS Beagle. In his travels, he observed that creatures found on the islands he visited were similar to ones found on the mainland, but appeared to be slightly different. It wasn't until he returned home that he came to the conclusion that species are specially modified to their environments, and that's why they differ. He developed 4 conditions explaining why this happens. Darwin's theory of natural selection by descent with modification is testable and observable fact. Experiments have been conducted in the wild and in labs. Let's dive deeper into Darwin's 4 conditions. Condition number 1. Individuals within a population differ. The differences are, at least in part, passed from parents to offspring. Some individuals are more successful at surviving and reproducing than others. The successful individuals succeed because of variant traits they have inherited and will pass on to their offspring.
Because I think the people who did those studies, Dr. What is it?
Dr. Zervos.
Again, I don't want to see them lose their job. I'd like to pin a medal on them in terms of, good, you conducted a great study. Shame on you for not publishing it, but we understand because we know you probably would have had your career destroyed. All those years in medical schools, all the lives that you save when you treat patient, you won't be able to do anymore because the certification bureaus, the boards, they will destroy your career. Again, I've seen it. I know the people. It happened during COVID. So yeah, is it a grand conspiracy? I don't know what you call it. It's certainly what I would call the COVID cartel and the medical establishment cartel and captured agencies. Yeah, that absolutely exists. Okay? You don't think so?
No, I don't. I think that, I love people. I love my patients. I try to give them the best care that I can provide them. I have a nuanced conversation with them. I don't shame them, no matter what their views are.
Do you think doctors should have been fired for prescribing ivermectin? Do you think they should have had their certification taken away from them? Do you think they should have been sued? Do you think that should happen to doctors? By the way, ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are all FDA approved, and you as a physician have full off-label prescription rights, correct?
Correct.
So again, do you think it was right that doctors who prescribed ivermectin were fired, were decertified, lost their license. Do you think that should have happened?
I don't have an opinion about that.
You really don't, huh?
No, I don't. I mean, I've never thought about it. I don't.
Think about it now. And we'll come. And by the way, I truly want you to come back.
I would love to. This
Okay,
has been a real.
okay. Swear on the
real
Bible. 'Cause
pleasure.
we're going to have you come back with Peter McCulloch and Dr. Pierre Corey and Brian Cole. Might even have Dr. Malone. Which, by the way, don't leave, because I think I'm going to ask consent to have you come up and defend yourself, seeing as you were slandered in this hearing.
That to describe the scientific method?
I'm asking you a simple
Now,
question.
wait. Let's be very clear. The scientific method is
Yeah, this is crazy. And his favorite, yeah, absolutely. Let's be very clear.
observation and study. So what they do is
Proven or disproven? You go.
you're asking me
Absolutely.
to describe the scientific method?
I'm
Now, wait. Let's be very clear. The scientific method is a process.
down and let's get back to the scientific method. How are hypotheses and theories validated or invalidated? Go ahead and give us that E word.
It's interesting that you only use the word experimentation, but the word that is usually used before experimentation is observation. That's the term that I used. I said study and observation. That is what I said. And so it would be really nice for someone who thinks that he is describing something eloquently to have a source. You have shown us none other than AI overviews and the title page of a book. You can't question what I am saying when I'm the one that showed the book that you did not show, when I'm the one that showed the 2 scholarly articles that you did not show. How in the world do you think that you are doing well here? This is beneath this community. By the way, the idea of gemmules is similar to the idea of genes. Not 100% correct. It's a dated theory. But 100% is similar to the idea of genes. Not 100% correct. Similar to the idea of genes. Not 100% correct. It's a dated theory. But Charles Darwin didn't have access to the tools that modern scientists do. So I want to be clear that there is no one else that would also say, well, his theory is 100% incorrect. That's not how scientists or scholars speak. They say it's dated. In other words, we have a better explanation now. You're 100% incorrect. I would love for you to find a scholar that would speak like that. But the reality is you're not reading scholars. I'd love for you to find a or dated source.
On the page, hypothesis, synonyms.
They act.
And his favorite, yeah.
Wait. Let's be very
method. How is that theory proven or disproven? You go.
You're asking me
Absolutely.
to describe the scientific method?
I'm asking you a simple question.
Wait. Let's be very clear. The scientific method is a
Actually, I think Dr. Scott has done a great service in terms of pointing out the lack of clinical trials supporting the safety of the routine injected childhood vaccines. You see, he's saying there are 661 inert controlled trials to support the safety of the routine injected childhood vaccines. But when you actually drill down into those 661 trials, let me give you the breakdown of them, okay? 567 of these trials were not a routine injected vaccine for a disease on the CDC's childhood schedule. They were for HIV vaccines or other vaccines. So totally irrelevant to the safety of routine injected childhood vaccines. The remaining 94 studies, 70 of them did not involve healthy children. For example, trials of HIV-positive adults. Again, completely irrelevant to the safety of childhood vaccines. Of the remaining 24, 21 did not involve a license, a currently used U.S. licensed vaccine. For example, Chinese flu shots, stuff like that. That leaves us with 3 studies, 3, that were claimed to have a inert control that were relied upon to license a routine injected childhood vaccine out of this entire list of 661. And these actually help really highlight the problem we have in terms of assessing safety with regards to the licensure of childhood vaccines. I want good clinical trial data. I need it for my practice. Okay, let me walk through those 3. One was a trial for the chickenpox vaccine, the varicella vaccine. Now that trial had, it was only a few hundred people, so it was underpowered anyway. But Dr. Scott says it's got an inert control, but actually it was an injection of neomycin, an antibiotic. That's not inert. No. And neomycin used topically can cause issues, let alone injected. The second one was Gardasil 4 trial, which had thousands and thousands of girls and women in the control group. Almost all of them got an aluminum adjuvant injection. And then there were a few hundred, only a few hundred, that were labeled as a inert control, but they weren't. They got everything that's in the vial except for the antigens in the alum, which included L-histidine, sorbate 80, sodium borate, yeast protein, not inert. And then the third one was a Gardasil 9 trial, which finally, by the way, did have a saline injection, just a few hundred. There were thousands and thousands of girls and women in that trial. They all got an injection of aluminum adjuvant, which I don't even know if it's ethical to inject somebody with something that's neuro and cytotoxic, but leaving that aside, the few hundred that got the placebo, but they only got it if they first got 3 doses of Gardasil 4. So again, not an actual inert control group. The result is there's 0 trials, 0, which were relied upon in this list of 6061 to license a routine injected vaccine on the CDC schedule that included a placebo, as well as 0 trials of a vaccine used as a control to license a routine injected vaccine on the CDC schedule. Ironically, by the way, this list supports the opposite of what it pretends to do. And if you want to know what was relied upon to license routine injected childhood vaccines, it's easy. Look at the clinical trial documents. That's what we do. And in fact, my submission to this committee went through every single vaccine that's a routine injected vaccine, and we cited precisely what the control was. Now, I'll just point out one quick thing here, too, is that the CNN fact-checked Secretary Kennedy's claim that there is no routine injected childhood vaccine that was licensed based on a placebo-controlled trial, and it relied on Dr. Scott's list, which at the time had about 248 trials listed as being inert. Secretary Kennedy then did exactly the analysis I did, put it out on a tweet, took it apart. Not one of those was relied upon to license a routine injected childhood vaccine, nor was it used as a control to license a routine injected childhood vaccine. And then after that, apparently, somebody then scrambled all the RCT numbers for those 248. So you can't match it up with the secretary's tweet. And I guess to bury that issue, just added hundreds more, hoping that it can just hide behind this mountain of trials. But when you look at it carefully, it does not support the safety. In fact, it points out, it shows exactly the lack of safety. What's critical is this. Look, if you want to know the safety of a vaccine, and we need this stuff when parents call us and say, my child got XYZ issue after vaccine, you need trials that are, 1, properly controlled, which means either they got to get an inert substance or another vaccine that was properly licensed based on a robust trial. And then even if it has a proper control, it still needs to review safety long enough. And then even if it has a proper inert control and it reviews long enough, it then still needs to be properly powered. It needs all 3 to be a proper, valid clinical trial. Now, I can tell you there's not a single routine injected childhood vaccine on the schedule that meets those criteria.
Again, the whole point of developing or doing this list, this crowdsourcing or whatever, leading an internet effort for the 661 studies was all to prove Secretary Kennedy wrong when he said that there's never been any of the vaccines on childhood schedules that have had a true placebo-controlled, random-controlled trial. And you've just gone through the 661, and that statement's true. Dr. Scott, go ahead and, I guess try and refute that.
So, yeah, the reason why...
The belief that God had created mankind in his own image and likeness was shared by most Western scientists until the middle of the 19th century. They thought all the creatures of the planet had been conceived by a divine force. That is, until Charles Darwin arrived. Some researchers were already talking about an evolution of the species, but the British naturalist was the first to explain with evidence how evolution might occur. By natural selection. His theory radically changed biology, offering a new explanation of the origin of human beings. It also made him one of the most influential scientists and intellectuals in history. But to get there, he had to make an extraordinary journey. Darwin said that all species, including humans, were not created independently, but they descended from a common ancestor. From then on, life on the planet began to diversify. 20 years after his trip, Darwin had written thousands of pages, but he hadn't published any. He wanted to have irrefutable evidence, perhaps because he knew that his theory was going to cause quite a stir. But everything changed when he received a letter from Alfred Russel Wallace, an admirer and fellow naturalist who told him that he had reached the same conclusion. Evolution was produced by natural selection. Darwin panicked, facing the possibility that Wallace could take sole credit for the theory. So the two naturalists agreed to present a joint letter explaining their findings. But a year later, Darwin published his book titled On the Origin of Species, and he became a celebrity way beyond the scientific community. His findings shook the foundations of Victorian Britain. Like Copernicus in his time, Darwin changed the game by explaining that diversity came from a biological process without any interference from God. Darwin put human beings in the same evolutionary level as all the creatures on the planet. Scientific advances have confirmed his theory, and even the Catholic Church ended up accepting, decades later, that evolution is compatible with faith. And today, more than 150 years after Darwin's theory became known, we know that evolution is a fact. The planet keeps changing, sometimes dramatically, and we keep changing with it.
It's not like relativity or quantum theory. It's not profoundly difficult, but it's, I suppose, profoundly counterintuitive. I think, as you've suggested, Matt, it's kind of, you almost can't believe that something so complicated and beautiful as life could possibly come into being by such a simple idea as the non-random survival of random variation.
How is evolution different from natural selection? One is a cause and one is an effect. Natural selection is supposed to cause evolution. That was Darwin's concept, but it doesn't. Natural selection removes diversity, which is the opposite of what evolution requires. Natural selection is part of the creation model. God designed organisms to reproduce, and some are going to reproduce better in some environments than others. Okay. So not only is natural selection not the same thing as evolution, not only does it work in the opposite direction of evolution, but natural selection is part of creation also.
The 1986 National Child
How is
Evolution Act and the 2005 PrEP Act that would remove the structural incentives that created the autism epidemic and the chronic disease epidemics in this country. Thank you.
By American clinical and laboratory studies that suggest a potential association between acetaminophen used during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes.
Tager Flussberg says there is some evidence for an association.
More evidence of an association, certainly, than vaccines, for which there really is the established science, the conclusive science, so well studied that they're not related to autism. We want you to take Tylenol if you're running a fever, because that fever itself, that may not be so great for your developing fetus.
The ARC of Massachusetts, an organization supporting those with autism, is also speaking out. Its CEO, Maura Sullivan, saying, quote, "We must ground decisions related to public health in sound science and evidence, not on rhetoric or opinions lacking the support of research." Governor Maura Healey also weighing in.
I don't have a whole lot of faith or regard for what RFK Jr. has to say. Massachusetts is going to work with other states, and I'm working with other governors on how we support public health infrastructure.
Now, President Trump mentioned the product Tylenol several times this afternoon. Its manufacturing company, Kenvue, did release a statement. It says, in part, "We believe independent sound science clearly shows that taking acetaminophen does not cause autism. We strongly disagree with any suggestion otherwise and are deeply concerned with the health risks this poses for expecting mothers." For now, we're live outside Boston Medical Center. Aaron Logan, NBC 10 Boston.